Hello everyone, I hope this message finds you fit and fine. This is Shashank Tyagi. Welcome you all to this session. Today we are going to take discussion on emergency. We are going to start with the basic idea of emergency, why it is included in our constitution in part 18, and then we are going to jump into the provisions related to emergency, especially what are the grounds, how emergency is proclaimed, and specifically we are going to pick one emergency, for example national emergency. I'm going to talk about this, how it is removed, what is its impact on fundamental rights or center state relations, what are the important amendments cases, and what kind of questions are asked from this section. So these are the broad takeaways from this session. So before coming to this point, what are the types of emergency? Don't you think you should question why emergency provisions were included in our constitution in the first place? What was going on in the mind of constitutional framers? There was a central question. Question was, what would happen if there are some instances which have ability to destabilize the whole system? अगर कुछ ऐसा हो जाए जिससे पूरा political system destabilize हो जाए. So do we have some framework to protect the system? That was the central question. And as you know, our constitutional framers were reading different constitutions before, or you can say when these discussions were going on. So similarly, one constitution which was referred was Germany's constitution, Weimar constitution. So our constitutional framers came to this point that yes, we need to give special powers to the central government in events when such circumstances exist which have power to destabilize the whole political system. Because ultimately, if a country is under threat, then we need some special powers, right? What happens whenever there is crisis? From the childhood, you have seen a superhero would come to protect. So you can say the original idea of emergency provisions were that these are kind of superpowers to protect this political system, or you can say this country, from chaos, from destabilization, right? So this was the original idea. But when in general discussion this word came up, emergency, generally we relate it to negative connotation. And what's the reason behind it? One reason is this event which was going on between 1975 to 1977. You can say a 21-month period which is considered as a stigma on India's democracy. And why it is considered as a stigma on democracy? A simple reason is the power to govern got concentrated into one person. And you can see that this is against the basic idea of democracy. At the time, some people say, or I can, recalibrate in an example, India was being run like Maheshmati Samrajya. And there was a Rajmata, and who was ruling by her decree, the 21-month period of this national emergency was running in this way that whatever was the will of Miss Indira Gandhi, it was being done. Mera vachan hi कानून hai, like Rajmata of Maheshmati Samrajya. Although the people have diverse opinions, some people are of the view that yes, that was very much required because India was in crisis, not just political crisis, there were other crises. But like all of you know, every political decision is a contested decision. We all have diverse opinions to that, but we cannot nullify the fact that democracy stands on this basic principle that ultimately we have representatives, and representatives are elected by people, and they represent the will of people, right? If their voice is curbed, rivals are jailed, then yes, this can be considered as a stigma on this concept of democracy, right? So although you should not have this negative connotation, because original idea of emergency were superpowers to protect the stability of this country. Okay. So broadly, we can categorize emergency into three types. One is national emergency, as mentioned in Article 352. Then we have a state emergency, or we can say president rule, which is mentioned in Article 356. And we have Article 360, which talks about financial emergency. There's another article also, Article 365, which is related to this president rule. So what happens in Article 365 that we are going to discuss when we discuss president rule, okay? Because we are starting from the scratch, so we should move with the structure of this session, right? So that every building block is well in the place. So when it comes to national emergency, we can divide this into two types. Means the broad idea of emergency in our constitution scheme divided into three types: national emergency, state emergency, and financial emergency. Now I have picked national emergency. Now this national emergency can also be categorized into two types. One is external emergency and another is internal emergency. Now what is the difference? Difference is on the grounds on which this national emergency is being proclaimed. What are grounds? So our constitution says that there are three grounds on which our national emergency can be imposed. And what are these three grounds? One is war, another is external aggression, and third is armed rebellion. So when this word armed rebellion is being used, it means armed rebellion is being done from inside, right? So that is why if emergency means national emergency is being imposed on the basis of armed rebellion, then it is called as internal emergency. Okay. However, if our national emergency is being imposed on these two grounds, war and external aggression, then it is called as external emergency. Okay. Now, some of you might question, sir, what is the difference between war and external aggression? You can take this example. If India and Pakistan have formally declared that yes, we are going to use our armed forces against each other, then this condition is known as condition of war. If no such official declaration is there, but aggression is taking place from outside our boundary, then we can say that that's an external aggression, not an official war. Okay, but this can also be a ground of imposing national emergency because these conditions threaten the security and integrity of India, right? Now, this must be clear to you that even if none of these three provisions, none of these three conditions exist, neither we are having war, nor we are having external aggression, nor we are having some armed rebellion inside, still we can impose national emergency. And the condition is imminent danger. If we have some facts which prove that even if these three conditions don't exist as of now, but one of these conditions are going to eventually happen. So on this basis also, we can impose national emergency. So I hope you are clear with the grounds. So these are three grounds. Either one of the ground exists or any of the ground has possibility to exist and we have some facts to that, then this can be a basis of imposing national emergency. And on this basis, we have this categorization, external and internal emergency. Now comes the question, how national emergency is imposed. So let me share you the story, what happened in 1975 and how after an amendment means 44th constitutional amendment, we have changed this procedure. So in 1975, Indira Gandhi ji, our Prime Minister at that time, unilaterally wrote this letter to then President Mr. Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed that I am of the view that conditions of internal disturbance are there in India, and due to this, national emergency needs to be imposed. So Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed, he declared national emergency, and on the next day, concurrence was taken from Council of Ministers. So this was the procedure which was followed at that time. So 2 points are of importance. Number one, Prime Minister unilaterally, without consulting Council of Ministers, gave this information and asked president to impose national emergency. Means prime minister unilaterally doing that, right? Now, this is not the way. Means when Janata Dal government came in 1977 under the leadership of Morarji Desai, he brought 44th Constitutional Amendment Act to plug these loopholes. And what change was made? Change was that if, as of now, Prime Minister is of the view that yes, conditions exist where national emergency needs to be imposed, then he must consult his cabinet. And cabinet, along with Prime Minister, has to give written consent to Honorable President. Yes, please, sir, impose national emergency. So the changes means now Prime Minister cannot unilaterally hand over the letter to President. It won't be considered as a process, means it will be outrightly rejected, because that's not a process, right? Process is now Prime Minister has to consult the cabinet minister, and they have to sign a consent letter, and this letter of recommendation will be given to President, and then President is going to impose national emergency. Now, prime focus here should be on this word cabinet. I'm using the word cabinet again and again. There's a difference between the word cabinet and council of minister. When we use the word council of minister, it includes all union ministers, means senior most ministers, yani ke cabinet ministers. We also include union minister of state. We also include union minister of state independent charge. So all three kind of categories of ministers are included. All category of union ministers are included when we use the word council of minister. But when I'm using the word here, I'm using the word cabinet. An interesting tip to you people: whenever you are going to revise this national emergency and president rule and financial emergency, national emergency is the only emergency where concurrence of cabinet is mandatory. In other emergencies, word council of minister is used, not cabinet minister. Okay. Now, another point. So this was a change, right? Cabinet and written recommendation to president. Now, my question is, what choice president has this in this condition? Can president resend this recommendation to cabinet and headed by prime minister that although you people have given me a written recommendation that I should impose national emergency, but I am resending you this proposal, please reconsider this. Can president send back this proposal of national emergency to reconsider, or president is bound to sign on this proposal? This is my question to you. Think on this. What's your guess? Even if you have not read, just guess. Answer is yes, president can send back this proposal at least once, or at least is not the right word, I should say only once. Okay, so president can send back this proposal. Okay, and if this proposal is sent in the same manner again, now this time president is bound to declare national emergency, because procedure has been followed, written recommendation by the cabinet, and even if it has been sent back once, it has came back again, now president is bound to sign on this proposal that national emergency is going to be declared. Okay, now, so this is clear, right? Now the point is, when national emergency is imposed, do we have a process where national emergency can be selectively imposed? Means some part of India can be considered as out of the ambit of national emergency? Or a second condition is, when we are using the word national emergency, it is quite clear that it has to be imposed all over the India. What do you think? What should be the right way? And when I say what should be, it means you are not in position to decide what is the process already given in Constitution. You are just making guess. Now the answer is yes. In the national emergency proclamation, it can be clearly mentioned that okay, in these state, national emergency is not being imposed. Means it may be possible that president is declaring national emergency and saying, okay, Tamil Nadu is safe and secure and there are no conditions like that, so we are declaring that In Tamil Nadu, this national emergency will not be in proclamation. Okay, so it can be imposed in India as well as in part. And all of you know what is the basis, prime basis of imposing national emergency? It is security, right? So you have understood the types, you have understood the grounds, you have understood the change, you have understood the proclamation procedure, you understood the India and part. In both, national emergency can be imposed. Now the point is, we have reached the stage where we have declared that national emergency has been declared. Now the point is, what happens after that? Do we have certain process in place? Yes. It is not like if president has declared national emergency, then it is going to continue until and unless then president revoke. No. Now we have a process to that. What is the process? Means when national emergency is declared, then it has to be passed from both the House of Parliament within 1 month. Within 1 month. And by which majority? Any guess? Simple majority or special majority? A special majority. And you need not to cram this. Just get into the mind of constitutional framers when when they were deciding this. Get into the mind of those people who were drafting 44th Constitutional Amendment Act. Because these safeguards, some of these safeguards were added by 44th Constitutional Amendment Act. Like we have to, we have to reconsider the proposal of continuation of national emergency within the parliament. So we are going to talk about that. The point is, what do you think should be the way? Should constitutional framers make imposition of national emergency tough or simpler? Tough or simpler? Just tell me. What's your guess? क्या होना चाहिए? नेशनल इमरजेंसी लगाना आसान होना चाहिए देश में, या फिर उसको टफ करना चाहिए, उसका प्रोसेस थोड़ा ज्यादा टफ होना चाहिए जिससे कि ज्यादा ज्यादा लोगों का कंकरेंस आ सके, रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स का कंकरेंस आ सके? Then answer is tough. And when I'm using tough, it means what kind of majority we should use to make the imposition or continuation of national emergency tough. And the simple answer is special majority. It means within 1 month, you have to clear that national emergency is being, the proposal of national emergency has been cleared by both the House of Parliament with special majority. And let me be clear on this. When I say special majority, it means more than 50% of the total strength of the House. They are saying yes, plus one more condition should exist. More than 2/3 of present and voting are also saying yes, national emergency should continue. Then it will be considered that yes, within 1 month we have cleared this. Okay, national emergency is clear to continue. Okay, so they have made this process a bit tougher. Okay, now another point is, if Lok Sabha dissolves at that point or before that point, and we only have Rajya Sabha because Rajya Sabha is a permanent house, then how can we pass this proposal of national emergency from both the houses? What is going to happen then? Then the simple way is that meanwhile, you should pass this proposal from Rajya Sabha with special majority within 1 month. Okay, so if you have passed this proposal from Rajya Sabha with special majority, then also we can think, yes, this condition has been fulfilled, and that is why national emergency can continue. Okay, so this is what I have explained here. These are the provisions. Means if Lok Sabha has been dissolved without approving the proclamation, then within 30 days, Rajya Sabha has to meanwhile approve it with special majority. And if approved by both the houses, what is going to be the tenure? 6 months. Means it will be considered that for 6 months, this national emergency is going to continue. Okay. And what is going to happen after 6 months? If conditions exist, if government is in the favor that we should continue with this national emergency, then again they have to bring this proposal in parliament. Okay. So every resolution approving the proclamation of national emergency or its continuance, both the case, means for approving the proclamation, which is done only once in the start, and continuance after every 6 months, must be passed by either House of Parliament by a special majority. When this word either is used here, many people are confused. Okay, either House of Parliament by special majority. Does it mean that we need special majority just from one house, and we can pass from the other house by simple majority? No. The word either is used here because there can be a condition when Lok Sabha is dissolved. So in this case, Raj Sabha has to pass that. Okay, but you should keep in mind whenever it comes to approving the proclamation or continuance, a special majority is required. I have told you what special majority is required. Okay, so these kind of silly mistakes which students do in exam. Now, how it can be revoked? So one way of revocation is जिसने declare किया वही वापस ले ले. Means president has declared and president revoked. And how president is going to revoke? On the advice of cabinet. जिनकी सलाह पे लगाया था वही कहेंगे वापस ले लो तो वापस ले लेंगे. Okay, one way is this. Another way is if Lok Sabha passes a resolution that yes, the conditions are fine and now we can revoke this national emergency, then it can be revoked. By which majority? Simple majority. Disapproving its continuation. Now the point is, you should keep in mind. One point is president on the advice of cabinet, okay, says now conditions are fine. Let's declare that national emergency is revoked. And another is when at the time of continuance, means after 6 months, when this proposal come and now Lok Sabha has power, continuance to hamare haath mein, then at that point Lok Sabha can bring a proposal, that resolution we are bringing, and this resolution is saying, okay, we don't want national emergency to continue. Then this national emergency will be declared revoked. Okay. Now there is one condition, and in polity, what is required is you think of the gray areas from your own. Okay. So you should think about a condition if national emergency is being continued for 6 months, but even after 2 months, conditions are fine. And there is, conditions are fine and now national emergency can be revoked. But this cabinet is not giving recommendation to president to revoke this national emergency because this government is having, so much power due to this national emergency. But other members of the house, they think, yes, we should bring some proposal and, highlight this. We should sensitize government. So what can happen at that point? So 44th Constitutional Amendment Act brought this amendment, and now it says that if 1/10 member of Lok Sabha, means 1/10 members of the total strength of Lok Sabha, if they give a written notice to Lok Sabha Speaker, if House is in session, then they can present this letter to Lok Sabha Speaker that Honorable Speaker, we have the signs of 1/10 members and we want that in Lok Sabha we should bring a proposal for revoking national emergency. And by simple majority, they can have this bill. Okay, they can, there are possibilities that, ruling party MPs convince the major, their own party that please, the conditions are fine and politics, people on the ground are demanding it. And that's how they can, bring this proposal and, by simple majority, they can revoke national emergency. But the another cases in polity, UPSC play on cases, conditions. You should think on this. I'm bringing this and just keep this in mind. Okay. So in every part of polity, there are some gray areas where question can be asked and many students are going to be trapped. Now, this is not a trap. ये तो बहुत आसान चीज है, ठीक है? Now, what is going to happen if Lok Sabha is not in session? फिर क्या करेंगे इस वाले point? If Lok Sabha is in session, 1/10 member were giving this notice to Lok Sabha Speaker, but if Lok Sabha is not in session, फिर Lok Sabha Speaker क्या कर लेगा? How can Lok Sabha Speaker bring that resolution? Give permission to bring that resolution? Okay, पहले तो Lok Sabha session होना चाहिए. Now your mind should go to this point: who has power to summon the House? President has power to summon the House. Then in this case, this 1/10 members of the Lok Sabha are going to give this notice to President. Okay. Now, is it mandatory on President to summon this Lok Sabha? Yes. In 14 days, Lok Sabha needs to be summoned. Okay. And this proposal should be brought. Okay. And you should also question why this 1/10 member. Why this complication of 1/10 member? That's not a complication. In Parliament chapter, you must have read that for bringing any order in the house, mean for starting the house, you can say we need at least quorum to be present there. Means minimum number of people, minimum number of members who should be in the house before we bring house in the order. What is that number? Number is 1/10. Means 1/10 members are required even to convene the sitting of the house. So that is why 1/10. If 1/10 are saying कि session बुला दो, तो at least ये तो है कि 1/10 तो आएंगे, right? So the demand is legible. Now attempt this question. Identify the correct statements. National emergency can be extended till indefinite period, and along with this, life of Lok Sabha too. Second, during national emergency, tenure of state legislative assembly can be extended till indefinite period, 1 year at a time. Answer is 1 and 2. ये तो cheating होगी, bold में दिया हुआ है. So I have already told you that by continuation through Parliament, after 6 months, this national emergency can continue. And similarly, Lok Sabha's life is also going to continue. Okay, it can also continue because since national emergency is there, so there is a possibility that we don't have condition to conduct elections. So we need Lok Sabha. So for Lok Sabha, life of Lok Sabha can be extended. And I must tell you, life of Lok Sabha is extended 1 year at a time, whereas national emergency is extended 6 months at a time. Okay, you basically play on these points. And similarly, these conditions are also applicable in case of state legislature. In this case, Parliament has power to increase the tenure of state legislative assembly. Similarly, to indefinite period, 1 year at a time. Both our statements are correct. So this is what I have explained here. Effect on the life of Lok Sabha and state legislative assembly. It can be extended beyond normal term, 1 year at a time. But the point is, when national emergency is going to cease to exist, I mean, ab national emergency khatm ho gayi, then from that point, Lok Sabha's life cannot continue beyond 6 months. Means within these 6 months, we have to convene elections. We have to bring a fresh Lok Sabha in place. Okay. Same with state legislative assembly. I've told you. So this is your Article 352, which we have discussed some aspects until now. Okay. So this is the language. Okay. Just read it out fast and you are clear with these points until now. Okay. Through this discussion. Give it a read. Or just pause it and give it a read. I'm continuing with this lecture. Now, this 30th Amendment Act, so it was brought by Ms. Indira Gandhi. And what she did, in 30th Amendment Act, she said that declaration of national emergency is immune to judicial review. Means judiciary cannot review. Judiciary cannot review this act which you have done. So on this particular point, we had 44th Constitution Amendment Act. And this amendment removed the discrepancy which was created by 30th Amendment Act. Right? And in minimum bill case, Supreme Court also cleared it that national emergency can be challenged in the court. And what basis? That the ground on which you have said now you are imposing national emergency are malified, and the basis you are making are based on irrelevant facts. For example, if you are saying that we are imposing national emergency on the basis of armed rebellion, and there is no armed rebellion, then Supreme Court can question, where is armed rebellion? These are frivolous facts, irrelevant facts, and that is why we are declaring your declaration of national emergency null and void. So this can be done. So you should be clear that national emergency comes under the purview of judicial review. Okay. So what is impact on national emergency? Impact on center-state relations. So when it comes to center-state relations, we can broadly divide into 3 parts. Okay. What are the 3 parts? One are executive actions. So I must tell you, when national emergency is in place, executive power comes under the hand of center. Means center can give direction to state and state has to follow. Because ultimately, if a particular decision has to be implemented on the ground, center needs executive machinery of the state, right? Departments of the state. So that is why this provision was made. Executive power of the state will transfer to center. You can say that during national emergency, federal nature of India as a state converts into unitary, means power get converted, power get collected in the hand of union, and that is very much required. Yeah, you need superpower to bring stability. So that was the original idea. When it comes to legislature, so in this condition, center can even make laws which are mentioned in state list, means matters on which only state has power in normal condition. Now national emergency is in place. Now center has power to make law, or even only on even on these subjects. And what about ordinance? Can central government bring ordinance on state subjects also? Yes, central government can bring ordinance on state subjects also. And what is going to be the duration of these kind of acts? Because these are brought in emergency. Are they permanent in nature, or do they have specific life? Yes, they have specific life, and the life is till we are having this national emergency, and after that there's a 6-month period, and in that period these acts can be repealed. Okay, so life is not permanent, right? Or when it comes to financial emergency, in this case our president has power. Our president can declare that whatever promises center has made with state, that we are going to give this much amount to you. Now national emergency is in place, that is why center is not bound to fulfill these promises. So you can see that these three aspects of center state relations are changed to a large extent in national emergency. When it comes to fundamental right, you should remember two articles: article 358, article 359. Okay, so let me elaborate a bit. When it comes to article 358, you should remember it talks about article 19. Okay, so this is effect of national emergency on executive. It can give direction to state on any matter. You should keep in mind any matter. Make laws of any subjects. In the state list, president can issue ordinance. Okay, and what is going to be the duration of these laws? Till the national emergency is in place, and after that 6 months. That I've already told you. Financial emergency, I've already told you. President can modify the constitutional distribution of revenues between center and states. Okay, and this is another point: legislative and executive changes which are going on in the country during national emergency can be extended to those states also where national emergency is not in operation. UPSC play on these points. UPSC love these points because these are like traps. So the point is, can be those areas where national emergency is in place. For example, when I started this lecture, I told you that Tamil Nadu is given exception. Okay, things are fine there. Okay, so if we are bringing some legislative changes and national emergency in place, then center can say that even though you are not having national emergency in place, but we are extending these provisions because conditions are such. Okay, so this can happen. Now it comes to fundamental right. You should remember, when it comes to article 358, article 19 suspends. Automatic suspension of 6 fundamental rights, F6, which are mentioned in article 19. But there's a trick here. A trick is, fundamental rights mentioned under article 19 can be suspended only on the grounds of war or external aggression. You can say that. When external emergency is being imposed, then only article 358 is going to be activated. If it is internal emergency, then article 358 provisions are not going to be activated automatically. Okay, it should be clear in your mind. It was added through 44th Constitutional Amendment Act. When I say article 19, I'm talking about right to freedom of speech and expression, assembly, having association, right to move freely, right to settle any part of India, right to freely choose your profession. So we are talking about those rights. Okay. When it comes to article 59, so what is the difference? So article 58 talks about article 19 can be suspended in case of external emergency, bahar wale karan ki wajah se. Okay, point is that, and the condition is automatic. But when it comes to article 359, it says that president has power to suspend fundamental rights through an order. Okay, in that order, president is going to mention the fundamental rights which are going to be suspended. Let me be clear. The original essence of this order, which is released under Article 59, is that your right to remedy of these fundamental rights are going to be suspended. It is not like if Article 14, 15 are, for example, Article 14 is suspended, 15 is suspended, 16 is suspended. It is not like that that government is going to go otherwise. It is not like if Article 16 is saying that in case of public employment, there will be no discrimination on these bases, religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth, descent, resident. But the point is, you are going to have your rights. When national emergency is in place, it doesn't mean that all of your rights are going to be removed. Many students have this misconception whenever they read this Article 58, 59, कि okay, हमारे तो rights चले जाएंगे. ऐसा नहीं है. Rights will be there, but if some right is subjugated, altered due to special conditions which exist, which government think, yes, we need to, take some decision for the stability of country, and through this decision, there may be some infringement of your fundamental right, then in this case, you cannot go to court. So this is the essence of Article 59. It is not like कि आपके सारे rights remove कर देंगे. Okay? So remedial measures are suspended, not the fundamental rights. Okay? Suspension of enforcement relate to only those fundamental rights that are specified in presidential order. Okay? Only those are mentioned in presidential order. Clear about? Now, you should be clear that Article 20 and 21 are exceptions. Means these fundamental rights are not going to be suspended. And how this was added? By 44th Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay, President cannot suspend the right to move to the court for the enforcement of fundamental right guaranteed in Article 2021. Okay, and whenever this order is issued by President, it is not like once it is issued, it will be extended to the time this national emergency is in place. No, there's an important rider in this particular clause, and the rider is you have to place this order before the Parliament, and both houses of Parliament has to approve it. Okay. Now, I have this question from you. Since we have this interesting discussion, now think over this. You have to fill in the blank. Right to publication of proceedings in the Parliament shall be cancelled or cannot be cancelled during national emergency. Shall be cancelled or cannot be cancelled. Tell me. Fast. Think. Make guess. That is what is required. And make guess in comments. I will take a look afterward. So many of you might think, yes, shall be cancelled because national emergency is in place. But the answer is shall not be cancelled. Okay. This is very much clear that right to publication of proceedings in the Parliament shall not be cancelled during national emergency. Okay. You should remember it is not be. If it is asked by UPSC, many students are going to fall into the trap. Okay. Now attempt this question. Article 58 operates only in case of external emergency, not in case of internal emergency. Article 58 suspends fundamental right. Article 19 for the entire duration of emergency. Article 59 suspends the enforcement of fundamental right for a specific period mentioned in President order. All the statements are correct. I've told you now. Article 58 suspension of 6 fundamental rights mentioned in Article 19 when external emergency is in place. And I've told you it is automatically suspended and the duration is emergency. And then Article 59 suspend the enforcement of fundamental right for a specific period mentioned in presidential order. When we say enforcement of fundamental right, it means we are talking about remedial measures being suspended. So answer is 1, 2 and 3. Thank you. I hope this discussion on national emergency helped you brought clarity on these topics. I hope आपको help होगी. And let's meet in another session. Till then, keep learning, keep growing. Shashank Tyagi signing off.